Yo, what's cracking, folks? Welcome to episode number 15 of The Painter and the Pixie.
15.
I am your host, Jeremy Vassar, and I am joined once again, by Serina the
Yay.
Pixie. She has returned, folks,
I'm back.
from her travels.
I've missed you.
I know. I missed you too.
It's good to be back.
I know, right? So in this episode of the podcast, Serena and I are actually going to be talking a lot about traveling and kind of prepping your nutrition for travel. And then at the very end, we talk a little bit about mobility and some things to think about as far as keeping yourself healthy when you're out on the road.
Yeah. A lot of good tips here about food-wise. How do you stay on point and then enjoy yourself a little bit too while you're gone.
Yeah, give yourself some grace.
But like set yourself up for success at the same time. And then some really good tips from Jeremy here at the end of our episode about some mobility support, because travel can be super fun and exciting, but it can also take a toll on the body. So let's fuel yourself for success with good food, and then make sure that we've got a good physical practice to keep ourselves moving forward. Easy peasy.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, without further ado, please enjoy episode number 15 of The Painter and the Pixie.
This is only the beginning.
All right, ready?
Ready?
What you're going to hear about today is nothing short of a miracle.
Well, I don't believe it.
Let's find out. Ready, set, go.
Woohoo! What's up, girl?
Hello. Happy Sunday.
She's back, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm back.
So you've been out of town the last 2 weekends.
I know. I've missed our show.
Traveling out and about. I know. I had to do 2 shows with my brother.
I know.
That turd.
Nice shows. They were fun, but I was really sad not to be on them.
So now, 2 weekends ago, you were out in Ohio visiting your sister.
Yes, I was. It was a surprise. That's why we didn't talk about it on the show leading up to it.
Yeah.
I went out and surprised her as she moved from one house to a new apartment of her own, with her and her husband. And so I surprised her and showed up there with coffee at her front door.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great.
So it's a nice way to greet somebody. New coffee. And then this past weekend, you were down teaching in D.C. at the nutritional therapy situation, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm a group leader for our Herndon class. So we were down and had our first workshop for that term, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So a lot of traveling in the last 2 weeks. I was gone. I was in Ohio with Kat, and came home. I was home for 3 days and turned right back around and went again.
Right.
So a lot of driving, a lot of travel, and let me tell you, being prepared ahead of time is useful.
Yeah. Yes, we're gonna bust into our topic here in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then see how far we get down that rabbit hole. But in the field of nutrition, because we're going to be talking about how to kind of prep for whatever diet you may be on and kind of your personal favorites as far as what you pack when you do travel. Completely not on a diet is what we made last night.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So one of the things I've been doing for some of my family members is that for their birthday, I will make, instead of giving them a present, I will cook them a meal. And a lot
Meal
of times,
of their choice.
A meal of their choice. And one of what I am known for is doing like cheat meals, like scratch-made comfort food, scratch-made cheat meals.
Yeah.
And I'm super good at it.
You are. You're pretty much the best.
Which has been confirmed by everyone that's had them. So I don't feel like that's a brag.
No.
So what we did last night, this was for my brother's wife, Sarah, her birthday.
Sister-in-law.
Happy birthday, Sarah.
Yay, happy birthday.
So we did, and then we actually had a nice day yesterday.
It was beautiful.
80 degrees. Oh, so nice.
80 degrees. It was gorgeous.
It was awesome.
I just wanted it to be like that all the time. It is not like that today,
No,
folks.
it's like 40 something and raining.
Yeah, it's 41 degrees right now and gross. Big shift.
Yeah, right.
But yesterday for Sarah's birthday celebration, it was beautiful.
So it was like a combination of some of Jeremy's best ofs.
Yeah.
I made grass-fed beef burgers with like cheddar, melted cheddar, like artisanal cheese on top. We did avocado, tomato, bacon, super good bacon, and then I served them on a croissant.
Instead of a burger bun.
Which people
so good.
think is weird, but croissants are the shit. And then they're like light and fluffy and awesome. And then serving a burger on that, it's super messy, but it's delicious.
It is very messy. but also very delicious.
And you just got to tell everybody that's going to be real messy.
You just have extra napkins.
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah. And then I did beef tallow French fries.
Oh yeah, those turned out so good.
yeah.
Very, very well. The last one was like before that, not as awesome. This one was awesome.
Yeah. Well, the problem was I did them for the last time I did the actual French fries, not just tater tots, which are also delicious.
True.
Was at I think Halloween.
I think it was Halloween.
And Halloween I used my big fryer, but the problem was I have this potato press that turns the potatoes
Cuts them into the perfect little French fry shapes.
1/4 inch is what you're going for, folks. That's what
Nice and thin.
McDonald's does.
Crispy.
Yeah, well, what I did is I did a bunch of them, and then I froze them. But I think
Yeah.
I froze them with way too much liquid still in them. So then they were way too frozen, way too much water in them. So then,
Oh, right. And when you try to fry them and having too much water, that doesn't go very well.
yeah, the problem is it drops the temperature of the cooking oil way too much. So then they take forever to cook. And then they are like soggy and not as good. So this one, I just blanched them, dried them off, never froze them, and then
turned out
did 'em,
great.
and they were delicious.
Much better.
And then my mom made a salad, and then we did.
I think I'm the only one who ate the salad. I don't think anyone else ate salad.
It was a massive bowl of French fries.
Yeah.
The cheddar burgers.
Burger bar.
on croissant. Yeah, it was like a burger bar because you could put anything you
And
want.
we had pickles. I had some good fermented pickles. They were delicious.
Oh, and I made Sarah's a big fan of dipping sauces.
Yeah.
So I made the ranch sauce and the campfire sauce from Red Robin.
Yeah. Oh man,
I got
those were
the
delicious.
I got the deconstructed recipes online, and it tastes almost exactly like it does at the Red Robin.
Yeah, safe to say everyone enjoyed the meal.
Yeah. And then for dessert,
Oh yes, and dessert. Can't forget about that.
I made a cast iron skillet cookie.
Like a gigantic chocolate chip cookie.
Chocolate chip cookie, which is super gooey, and then we had vanilla ice cream on top of that. But you serve that thing hot, and no one was complaining about that
No one
either.
was complaining. No,
But
it took a little longer to cook than we thought.
Yeah.
But everyone was fine with that. They
Yeah, what's
were
up
all
with that?
waiting.
I feel like every recipe tells you, it's like they're giving you the best case scenario.
Right. If everything
every
goes
time.
perfect, it will take you 25 minutes.
My favorite on
You're
recipes
like,
is-
it took me 25 minutes to get through stage 2.
Yeah. That's my favorite is when they give you the prep time.
Yeah.
It's like prep time, 5 minutes. I'm like, in whose world? It's
Right.
gonna-
You're
yeah.
like, prep time's taking me 25 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, right. And then you actually made some awesome keto cookies.
I did, yes.
Oh,
I
man,
wanted
those
to,
were
didn't want
good.
anyone to be left out. And one of the members of our little clan are doing a little bit low carb challenge thing here. So I made some keto cookies and they were really good. Chocolate chip
Dude,
cookies.
everybody liked them. I would
Yeah.
eat those.
Yep.
Like,
They were
on the
pretty
reg.
decent.
Yeah.
I got the recipe online. I can link it in our show notes if I want to.
There you go.
It's from a fellow NTP who created this recipe. So it was pretty fun.
But yeah, so needless to say, everyone was very happy, and everyone got sent home with a little doggy bag of further. I think everyone gets another sandwich today, and my brother's coming back by to pick up the dessert. and
Yes,
stuff,
because it was too hot to send home in the
Yeah.
hot cast iron skillet. So then we had to wait till today, cool
Yeah.
down a bit.
Yeah, so it turned out nicely, and that was delicious. And we had our round 2s this morning.
Yeah, so yummy.
Woo! That'll be get back on the train. So because I know you're doing a little bit different kind of diet now, getting into that.
Yes.
And
Which we
then-
can talk about that more in another episode.
That's true, but I know it kind of links into what you're doing
True.
with, because if people have fitness goals or dietary goals, and you end up traveling, as a lot of people do, whether it's vacation or maybe like a weekend trip, or for you, you've had 2 weekend trips in a row where you've had, not access to like your full kitchen and all those kinds of
access
things.
to no kitchens.
Right. And it's tough to travel and then maintain your, a semblance of a good, nutritionally balanced diet.
Yeah.
And then, because when you're on the road a lot too, your access to, like, it's very easy to eat poorly or less
right.
than ideal, however you want to phrase that.
Yeah, it's very simple to find highly refined processed foods on the road. There's not a lot of nutrient dense food happening out there in fast food world.
Yeah. And you've done a gang of these weekend trips.
Yeah.
And I'll say, we'll maybe like spell out some of the parameters, which is you're driving, so you're not flying. So you can kind
Correct.
of pack a decent amount of food with you. So storage is not a big problem. And then you're staying in a hotel room, which has I would assume has like a small mini fridge or something.
Yeah, and usually if all the locations that I stay, I always make sure there's a little mini fridge in the hotel room.
Yeah.
But it's, a lot of times if it doesn't come standard, you can request one and they'll bring it up into your room.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the hotel that you're staying in, but usually when I go down for these NTA conferences for our workshop weekends, we know as the NTA as an entity chooses these locations to make sure you have those types of things available at the hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have my own preferences as far as what I like to bring with me on the road, but you are really good at prepping out food
Yes.
to bring with you, and then kind of, I would say the bulk of your nutrients you're kind of bringing with you.
I am, for the most part. Yeah, this is, like you mentioned, I've done this trip a bunch of times. This is down at the Herndon venue. I think it's my 20th, 19th time going down there doing this round of things. So it's like quite a few repetitions of how do you go. And it's always a 3 or 4 day weekend.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's 5 days, actually. For some of our midterms, it's a little bit longer and I have to have an extra day. So you kind of get used to get into the swing of things for how do you prep meals. The first couple times you're like, oh, go out, I'll buy food at the hotel restaurant or go out with people to eat. But then after a couple times of that, you say, yeah, I really am missing some good, wholesome food. I don't want to just spend all this money on food that's not even that good for you.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, like, what are some of your go-tos as far as when you're structuring what you're going to bring with you?
Yeah, so let's step back a minute. When I knew I was going out to visit Katrina and help her with moving, that was going to be a 4-day stint. Then I came home and I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then I left again for another Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for another 4 days. So I knew I didn't have very much time to get things together. So what I did was sat down and created a meal plan ahead of time. And this is the best advice I can give anybody who wants tips for traveling and eating healthfully along the way is make a plan. It sounds really boring, and it is a little bit boring. You can't be spontaneous as much as you want to, but it's really, really helpful to give yourself some parameters. So no matter what type of diet you're following, for example, you mentioned keto a little while ago. If you're saying, okay, I'm going to follow a keto program, if you put together a meal plan for yourself and pack foods ahead of time or plan meals that you can get out at restaurants, you can keep to your program with virtually no problem. Very easy to keep on track.
Because you're doing some forethought ahead of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, any amount of forethought is going to be helpful. So that's when I like to write down a little plan for myself.
Yeah. So then, obviously some of the foods might switch around depending on because sometimes you're trying out different diets that you want to prescribe to different clients and
recommend.
prescribe. Sorry. So this go around, what was your jam?
So this time around, I was adjusting some things. I have just come off of about a year of really, really playing with this keto thing. So I wanted to give a little bit of a shift and introduce some more carbs to the picture. So I developed my meal plan to be about 45% carbohydrates, 25% protein, and the rest fat. Take my calories from fat. So I sat down and I said, okay, how do I want to prepare this for myself? And basically I gave myself a little stir fry meal for each of my lunches. I have a standard breakfast when I travel, and lunch is usually the same thing every day. And then dinner, I plan for myself. I don't usually bring food for dinners on these workshop weekends because usually students want to go out or instructor team people want to go out to eat. So I kind of leave that a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
So what I did this time around is, let me go back first. The basis whenever you're traveling, the best option I can give to you is to bring some shelf-stable, high-quality foods.
Yes, I agree
That
with
is super helpful. Shelf-stable or requiring minimal refrigeration, because I remember there's been a couple of times I've been in some hotels where we didn't have a refrigerator, so I brought a cooler with me and some Ziploc bags, and then I would just fill it up with ice and keep things cold in the cooler.
Yep.
And that works out really nicely, too. If you don't have a good refrigeration system, it's super easy to just grab a cooler and do that. So some of my favorite shelf-stable snacks are beef jerky bars, like Epic bars or Gray's bars. We use those Gray's bars. That's what we've got over there. They're little spicy beef jerky bars that are all completely 100% grass-fed beef, which is awesome. Laura bars are another option that people really like. It's a fruit and nut bar that's mixed together, or Kind bars, which is a lot more nuts and seeds.
Yeah. And I like the RX bars, too.
Oh, and RX bars,
decent,
yeah. Those are great, too. Those are a really nice option. Minimally processed type of things. That's nice. And then so for the lunches, breakfast is usually something really standard like that.
Yeah. What are your breakfasts?
Okay, my breakfast that I usually go to is a coffee-based, some kind of shake or smoothie or beverage. If I'm not doing smoothies, so, you're really great with your smoothies. So much work on the road. Don't even bother. I tried before to make green smoothies and keep them cold, and then they're just gross after a day. You don't want to ever try to save those for a couple of days. It does not work. So I'll do something like a rocket fuel latte, which is definitely a keto-friendly breakfast. It's high fat, a little bit of protein, and a little bit of carbs.
Yeah.
Inside of it is cocoa butter, hemp seeds, a little pinch of sea salt, some collagen peptides.
Are you just mixing it with a spoon, or do you have some sort of mixer?
So that's a good question. When I'm here, before I leave, I melt everything together and then whip it up in the Vitamix or blender. And then I pour it into a little silicone ice cube mold. And then I would just pop out those molds and then go in the refrigerator, put that in my hot coffee in the morning, and then you can just shake it. If you have a lid that you can seal completely on your coffee,
Right.
you can just shake it up to melt it and mix it. Or I bought like a $5 little electric whisk.
Oh, yeah.
And it just whips it up for you, and it's super nice.
Wait, so like the ice cube thing that you make is the fat, and
Yeah.
What's in the ice cube thing?
Cocoa butter melted with coconut oil. And so when I do traveling, it's cocoa butter, almond butter, a little bit of coconut oil, hemp seeds, and salt, a little vanilla.
No vanilla, okay.
That's about it. You
And-
can put sweetener. People can put stuff like stevia in there, but I just leave it plain. I don't add any sweetener to mine.
Cool. So
Or
then,
honey.
and then you just make your coffee or get coffee wherever. So that's always when I travel. Like last year, I did a lot of traveling for this show. Not this show, my old show. But coffee is my big
Yeah.
deal as far as like that needs to happen every day, and I want it to be good. So
Yeah, I have brought my own coffee setup several times. This is actually the first trip that I have not brought my own coffee setup.
Yeah.
And that's because they had Starbucks there. So I just used that coffee.
it's not bad in a pinch.
It's if you want to travel light and you don't want to have to worry about cleaning up your coffee machine,
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Yeah, I would be torn as far as like, usually I bring a French press, but then
Yeah,
our
usually I do too.
electric kettle is like it's like a little bit on the fritz right now. I feel like it's
I did fine with it this
did
weekend.
it leak at
Yeah,
all,
no,
or was it
it's
fine? Okay, well there you go. But you could do Chemex.
Chemex
or
is great for traveling.
Chemex is sweet because you can just pull the. If for those that don't know, a Chemex, it looks like a glass, almost like an hourglass.
Mm-hmm.
And the coffee goes in the top, and it sits inside of like you have a filter. It's like a paper filter.
Mm-hmm.
You fill it up, and then you do a pour over top, and then it filters through that filter into the bottom, and then all the coffee kind of collects in the bottom of the hourglass. And then when you're done, you just pull that filter out, and you can chuck that.
Yep.
Instead of having like a French press, you have to find some place to
some way to
wash
get all of those
the grinds
grinds
out,
out.
which is often a pain in the butt. You don't have
is.
like a filter you can just pull out and throw away.
Yeah, so the Chemex is really nice, or just a pour over. They make those ones you can put right on top of your coffee cup.
Yeah, I would like to get one of those eventually.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
nice. They make some nice ceramic ones.
It's on my list.
Yeah, okay, good. So coffee is a big deal too. I like to have good coffee.
Yeah.
But if you mix some good stuff into it, like coconut oil and
I
all
like that little cube thing. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I have one left in the fridge if you want to try it out.
Yeah, that's
See
cool.
how it
I like
tastes
that for
inside.
traveling.
It's great for traveling because they're so easy to make. I whip it up ahead of time, put it in those freezer molds. Once you freeze it, it just sets. I mean, it's stable at room temperature. You don't have to keep it frozen.
Right. Yeah, it's like butter.
Like
Yeah.
butter. A little bit, but it's harder than that.
Gotcha.
So that's a great breakfast. My other really, really common go-to breakfast when I travel, this is almost always, if I'm not doing the coffee thing, I always do this for breakfast. Almost always, because it's so easy. It's chia seed pudding.
Right. I know that's your travel jam
Mm-hmm.
most of the time.
It is. It's just so easy. There's no cleanup.
Now,
It
what's in
is
chia seed pudding?
fantastic. My version of chia seed pudding is a can of full-fat coconut milk, can, not box.
Yep.
Plus 1 can of water all mixed together, and then a quarter of a cup to half a cup, depending upon how thick you like your chia seed pudding to be, of chia seeds mixed in. You just mix it, leave it on the counter, mix it every couple of minutes until it starts to thicken. And then I sometimes I used to all the time, now it's only sometimes, put a little bit of sweetener, whether that's maple syrup or honey, like 1 or 2 tablespoons for the whole batch. Not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a lot. Yeah.
A little bit of vanilla. That's the basic recipe.
It's pretty good. It tastes like almost like rice pudding.
Yeah, it's almost the consistency of rice pudding.
So it's good. I've eaten several of those.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good little, and you put them in those little mason jars usually.
Yeah.
Like the 4-ounce ones?
Yeah, I have 4-ounce mason jars, which are fantastic. Those are a great little serving size. And I have 8-ounce mason jars. If I'm doing the chia seed pudding as like a dessert or after a meal, I'll do the 4-ounce jars. But for breakfast, I always do 8 ounces.
Yeah. It
A lot more fuel.
They remind me of like Jell-O cups.
Almost.
Like back in the day.
Yeah, I can
like the
see that.
serving size, not the, I mean, obviously it's not Jell-O pudding, but.
Right, the serving size. No, it's exactly like that. Yep. And I love the chia seed because you can add things to it. You can add blueberries, you can add coconut flakes, you can add slivered almonds or whatever you want to add to it. Cinnamon, any other spices, and it kind of changes it up a little bit, but it's super simple. When you have to be up and out and ready to teach or grade papers at, 8 in the morning, you just grab that with you, toss it in your little cooler bag, and it's super easy.
Yeah. And I think that's nice particularly when you're planning things out. It's taking the focus away from where am I going to get food to focusing on whatever it is you're traveling for, which is really what you want to be.
Yep.
Having your attention on.
Yeah, it's great. So chia seed pudding is almost always my go-to. Now you can do other things. I've done this in the past where I've made like pre-cooked bacon and pre-cooked and pre-peeled hard-boiled eggs.
Ooh, yeah.
That one's also very easy. I have to be in the mood for hard-boiled eggs. I could eat chia seed pudding anytime.
Yeah.
So, and that travels really nicely too. You don't have to have hot bacon. It's still good cold.
Right.
Pre-cooked cold, 2 eggs, 2 bacon, and I just make enough for each of my mornings, and it's super easy.
And I like doing the combo of just getting a big block of cheese combined with those meat bars. Mm-hmm. That's what I've been doing a lot for my lunches.
Yeah, I'll do that a lot with my lunches too.
So, because then you can just like have some cheese chunks with the meat stick, and it's like a little, almost like a little charcuterie plate.
Yeah, it is.
Look at this.
Now, and that's what I normally would be bringing with myself for a lot of these workshop weekends, but this past one in particular, I've been dairy-free. Not doing any dairy because I was having, my little eczema spot that I'm trying to get rid of.
Right. And sneezing when you're having
and sneezing every time I drink my coffee with heavy cream, I would sneeze. I'm trying to fix that. That's what my new little endeavor is all about. But anyway, so I didn't do that for this time around. This time around for my lunches, I made myself, again, I used my little 4-ounce jars, and we had made some rice, some plain white rice earlier in the week. So I scooped up 3 servings, 3 little 4-ounce jars filled with rice, and I kind of like packed that in there. Yeah. And brought with me 2 avocados, a package of baby tomatoes, because tomatoes don't have to be refrigerated. I brought 3 or 4 meat bars with me, those Graze bars. And what else did I have? I had hummus. I had a package of pico de gallo, really spicy pico de gallo. Oh, it's so good. And then I had another vegetable, but I forget what vegetable it was. Maybe it was cooked broccoli or something. I forget what we had. But anyway, I made myself like a little stir-fry plate. So I pre-packed my servings of rice and then each package of my other components. And then I brought one big, relatively large glass container or glass storage containers so that I could mix my lunch in that each day. And it was like a stir fry. It was cold, but it was like a stir fry, and it was pretty good. The rice and the hummus, and then half an avocado and pico de gallo, all those things. I just mixed it up together, and
nice. So you get like a nice like snacker bowl.
Yeah.
For lunch or dinner. So it sounds like you have a lot of calorie-dense things that are easily transportable.
Yes.
And relatively small. It's a lot of calories in a little package.
Right.
So
it was it's very nutrient dense.
You're not bringing like bags of salad and stuff.
No, I did that a couple times, and that just gets to be too complicated.
Right.
I like to keep it more simple. So I have my rice, which goes in the refrigerator, the pico that goes in the refrigerator, but then everything else is shelf stable. You can just dump that right in. And if I had gotten fermented or made fermented pico de gallo / salsa, you don't even have to refrigerate it. You can just leave it out the whole time.
Right.
Super easy.
Right. Yeah, because I like that when I travel too. Just I usually get like a box of RX bars or like a lot of them or whatever kind of bar that's like low in sugar. And you kind of know you're not going to eat as optimally as you would when you're home, but you have to be like, okay, but I'm going to make the most of this. Yeah. And you give yourself enough good targets so that you're not going to be tempted to get like an Auntie Anne's pretzel when you stop at a gas station or something.
Right, exactly.
Or like one of the rest stops on 95. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
True. Oh, and with my lunch, I did also do one of those meat bars too. So that was my big protein source was my Graze bar, my grass-fed beef bar, because everything else, I just didn't want to have to take up the space to keep everything else.
Right.
So a lot of healthy fats, a lot of vegetables in there, and then some rice because I'm experimenting with the whole add more carbs thing. Another great option though for traveling is to bake sweet potatoes ahead of time and use those as your base. That's a really great option if you're looking for more carbs rather than more on that keto side of things.
Yeah.
Bring some butter. And usually you can find a place to reheat food somewhere in the hotel too.
Well, a lot of times you guys, you go out to dinner too with your group leaders and stuff. So it's not like all your meals are what you packed.
Right. That's why I pack breakfast and lunch all the time. And then dinner, I don't plan almost anything. I know I have some extra snacks available for myself if I need it, but I usually plan to go out to eat with my instructor team or some students.
Yeah, because even we've kind of developed our own little groove that we go on when we go down on vacation. So if you usually we go for a week down to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, which is
beautiful.
my favorite spot ever, but I'm biased because I've been going there since I was 4.
Yeah.
And it's wicked nice. So my Uncle Ronnie has a lovely villa that we get to stay at, and it's sweet. But they have, just on the island, they got a Whole Foods, and it is a baller Whole Foods. It's so good. So what we do is, instead of just, we've done this better sometimes than others, I'd say. My brother and I used to go down, and when we went down with my parents would go to the grocery store. Josh and I would go separately, and we would just buy junk food. Like, we'd buy like $200 worth of like cookies and ice cream, and we'd feel like shit about 3 days into the vacation.
I bet.
So kind of as we're maturing through the years, and also I just don't want to do that to my body anymore. Where we try and keep breakfast and lunch pretty good, and then dinner we'll go out or make something nice. And the last couple times you and I have done it, we've done it a little bit more conservatively, which has been nice. Like, even
it's been so much nicer.
We'll make sure we have good breakfasts, whether it's having bacon and eggs, but then you go to Whole Foods and you can get all the same stuff we get at the Whole Foods up here, which is nice. So we do like almost our normal shopping.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't batch make chili for the week.
We have done that.
We have done that. But I would even consider bringing the Vitamix down. Again, this is your driving, not flying, because you can bring whatever you want. But even that, like doing the smoothies, pre-making those, if you can set your vacation day off to a good start, and that way you're just not like, I'm going to eat crap and gain 10 pounds.
Right.
And you actually end up feeling better. And then, then I definitely am going to have more drinks than I normally would, and I'd rather spend my calories there.
And like maybe more dessert.
Yeah.
So that's another good point too. You building in room for margin for error, whatever you want to call that.
Margin for indulgence.
Margin for indulgence. I like that. Not margin for error. Margin for indulgence. So like for me, I went down on this trip and I brought this wheel of super delicious chocolate with me.
Ooh, that Mexican stuff?
Yes, that Mexican chocolate.
Good.
Taza, T-A-Z-A. And it's like in a circle, a wheel, a disc. That's what I'm looking for. And it was fantastic. I'm like, I know that I'm going to want a little something alone in this hotel room doing paperwork.
Yeah, right.
When I go to bed. So it's like super nice at the end of the day. The other lunch that I think is worth mentioning is, you mentioned this batch making chili at Hilton Head. Batch making something like that is also really, really convenient when you travel. Now, I don't have one of these. This is on my wish list. They make cute little crock pots where you can reheat something and you just plug it in like...
Oh, yeah.
They're for like 1 or 2 servings.
Ooh, that's a good move.
Yeah, I've known a couple of other NTPs, group leaders and instructors, who have had these, and then you can make a giant batch of like beef stew or chili.
Dude, if you batch made chili and you had one of those little crock pots, you could just like
scoop it in, plug it in at the beginning of the day, lunchtime, you're ready to go.
Yeah, particularly for you do that in the morning.
Yeah. That's what I want.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Eventually.
But what I like, and what you were hinting at, is that you make sure that you've got breakfast and lunch covered.
Yes.
And then you kind of let dinner happen.
Yes.
And if it's less ideal, at least you got off to a good start and you've already got some really good calories. That's how I feel when I do. Like, if I know I'm going to eat like a jackass later in the day, I'll make sure I make my smoothie.
Yes, of course.
Early in the day. And side note, folks, the last 2 weeks I've been I've been pre-batching all of my smoothies, and I've been bagging the lettuce and the carrots. Well, I guess it's all the kale,
all your greens,
all the
Swiss
greens.
chard,
So
kale,
spinach, Swiss chard, kale, and the carrot, all in a big Ziploc bag, and I make 5 of them because I do usually 5 smoothies in a week, and then I do all the freezer stuff in separate little bags. So then in the
your
morning,
berries, your ice, your all that stuff that's
it's so
frozen.
much easier than finding all that.
You just dump 2 bags in the blender
It's
with it up.
2 bags. The only thing I do have to prep is I have to cut open the avocado and do that because avocados go bad in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that, the tomato, and then the vital proteins.
Yep.
So
Super easy.
other than that, when I have the, it's just way better. It's way better because the longest part of making the smoothie was prepping the greens, and the greens are prepped, and so everything else is just wicked easy, and just cutting
That's
down
great.
those steps. And I'm much more likely to make the smoothie even when I'm running late in the morning
Because
which-
you know, it's
yeah.
only going to take me a few more seconds to
Yeah, and
complete
then-
this task.
it's like almost like a 2,000 calorie smoothie.
Yeah.
So I just do the like one of those meat bars and then a block of cheese in my lunch, and then I've got my heavy cream and my coffee, and I'm all good in the
Yeah.
hood. So.
Yeah, that's a great way to, that's like meal prep. It's exactly what you said. Being prepared ahead of time, like having a vision, a notion of what this day is going to look like, and starting your day off well is massively important.
Right.
If you start your day off, you're traveling, you're at a hotel, oh, I don't feel like this, I don't know, whatever, I'm just going to go down to the continental breakfast and then eat the Danish or Cheerios with low-fat milk, and then, there's a donut here, I might as well have one of those, Like, if you start your day off like that, you are putting yourself into a blood sugar roller coaster from the beginning, and you're just going to have to recover all day long. You're going to dip and spike all day long.
yeah.
If you start with really good fat and protein and almost no carb, or a really good kind of carb, like your non-starchy vegetables and stuff you're doing in your smoothie, that is a fantastic way to set yourself up for success, because you're not going to have a big giant blood sugar spike and crash, which triggers your body to say, give me glucose, give me sugar, go after the junk food because I need a quick burst of energy.
Right. And a lot of people have, difficulty sleeping when they go on the road, or anxiety about traveling or whatever it is. You're not in your normal environment.
Yeah.
So you tend to be like off a little bit. So if you're already tired, you're tired from driving around or flying or whatever it is, if you can plan a good, some good targets for your food and your intake, at least that's going to be balanced, because when you are tired and your willpower is ground down, that's going to be when you make less than ideal nutrition choices, and you're going to eat, the bagels and the donuts and whatever they give
Potato
you
chips.
at like, because a lot of people travel and they go to like conferences and stuff, which I've been to a few of those. And it's always like Danishes and pastries and sugar and all that kind of
Tons
stuff.
of sugar.
And you're going to be running on carbs and caffeine and then be even more strung out, instead of like giving yourself a little bit of a break with just having some high quality calories early in the day. And if that's like pre-planned when you're in a good space, my brother and I were talking about this this week, is like you want to make your plans when you're in the best brain space.
Right, not just flying. But that's when they say don't go shopping when you're hungry. It's very similar to that.
Right.
If you are in a really good place to make healthy, awesome decisions, you can project into the future and say, my future self will thank me for this choice.
Exactly, because you kind of want to like help your future self out, knowing that you're not going to be in the best space once you're tired and you've been traveling and you're hungry and all this stuff. It's like give my future self some real good options so he doesn't mess himself up, and because you want to experience whatever it is you're there to experience and have everything go smoothly, and then not feel like shit for the whole time. So
So yes, that's awesome. And I think another thing that's helpful here is in making the travel enjoyable itself, because travel is really hard on your body, which we can talk about that in a minute too. But what I always do for myself is give myself some sort of treat while I'm driving, whether it is some sort of fancy drink from Starbucks or a kombucha or a little can of Zevia, sparkling soda, something to make it like, okay, I've got something to do. It's like a fun flavor or fun texture or whatever, to keep yourself busy while you're driving. Now, because when I drove out to Ohio, it was a little over 6 hours to drive there, but the drive back, I hit some traffic and it was 8+ hours to get back. So I was like so bored, and can I just please get home? I don't want to be sitting in traffic anymore. But then it was nice because I had my little thing of tea and it was delicious. I was like, okay, something that's like making it a little bit more fun.
And I mean, I've been, I told you about this a little bit ago, but like my brother and I've been, our parents had us in cars traveling since we were very young. When my dad's parents were failing, when I was little, we were driving from here down to Richmond like every weekend or every other weekend, which is like a 5-6 hour drive. So we just got used to it. But, you know, as I still like going on long road trips, but I like having a good mental diet available, like a good media diet, which
Yes, that is also very helpful.
now it's like super easy to do with like all the good services like Spotify and podcasts and
Audible.
So usually I'm always mixing between, I like a nice balance between a good playlist for music. I like doing, I'll make a comedy playlist of like
that's cool.
new comedy specials that came out, because they're almost always on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever you have. And then podcasts, you can make like podcast playlists.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, where it'll just roll right into the next one. And that's another thing that I find you can plan out ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then have
That's
like,
true. That's helpful.
and have an audio book that you know is good. Like you've already listened to a little bit of it, because that sucks if you're on the road and the one you thought you were going to listen to ends up not being awesome. And then you're, you know, like you might not have time or the Wi-Fi to get it or whatever.
Right.
But so anyway, I always like, as you pack food, I pack media in my phone so that, and I'm like the designated guy to do that
that's
for
true.
pretty. So when we made those trips, we also would do trips down to Hilton Head. And then eventually my grandfather, when he moved up here, bought what we called the Big Green Machine.
Oh, yeah.
And it was this huge GM, like travel van, it's a conversion van with like the extended roof. And the thing was like a sailboat. It was hilarious. But it was like a living room inside. And it had a TV, and it had 2 coolers in the back. So this is when I was like a little fat kid, but I would like load up the coolers with like 6 sodas a piece.
Wow,
And
that's a lot of sodas.
it was a 13-hour trip.
That's still a lot of sodas for 13 hours.
We probably had extras when we were done. And then we would.
You wanted to be prepared. That's the moral of the
you gotta
story.
make sure make sure you have enough. And then I would load up like all our VHS movies, because it would have a VHS player and a 13-inch
Wow.
TV inside, which the new ones now are insane. Like they
Crazy.
have, and then we used to be able to hook up our gaming systems.
Wow.
So when I got my Nintendo 64,
That's so
it was like
fun.
right when he got that van, and I was playing the pod racing game from Star
Oh my
Wars
gosh.
on Nintendo 64 out to Ohio to visit my
Wow.
aunt. Oh man, it was great.
Very cool.
But anyway, I was always in charge of planning out all of the media
Mm-hmm.
for the trips, and having all the tapes in our turbo rewinder.
Yes.
Because the VHS rewinder in the side, the car was not as good as our turbo
that's so
rewinder
funny.
at home. So you make sure everything's rewound and stocked, ready to go.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So, but it's way easier now to have stuff on your phone and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so let's go back again.
Sure,
Let's
sorry.
go back to some of my travel tips here that I wanted to make sure to note for people. Being prepared is one thing, with having a meal plan and a focus so that you can keep to whichever diet plan you're on, or even if you don't want to call it a diet, but just going back to like eating clean foods that are like nourishing and healthy for you, far less processed, you know? So having some items, if you're able to drive, like you said, if you're flying, it's going to look a little bit different.
Yeah.
But if you're able to bring things with you, it's always a good idea to have a reusable water bottle, something that you can bring with you and fill up so that you don't feel like you're just grasping for water anywhere, you know, and buying tons of plastic bottles, or just saying, oh, well, it's easier to get a soda because I don't have my water bottle with me. So reusable water bottle, reusable coffee mug or hot beverage mug, something to keep you like able to make good choices there. If you make your tea at home, or at your hotel room, or your coffee or what have you, you're far less likely to go out and get the cafe mocha, frappuccino, whatever, latte with all kinds of sugar in it. Having some utensils. I have 2 packages of utensils, travel utensils that I use. One of them is made of bamboo, and it's like in a little package, little pouch that you can close and bring with you. And I toss that in my lunch bag with me, because then if you go out and you say, oh man, well, I forgot my fork. Are you going to eat the meal that you made, or are you going to be more likely to say, well, let me go get this sandwich over here or whatever, you know? Be sure you're prepared and have the tools that you need to have eat the foods that you've prepared. If you do hot foods, you want to have something that's going to keep your food hot. So they have thermos or Klean Canteen make these food containers. So it's just like a thermos, you know, where it holds the heat into a beverage, but it's like a bowl. So you can keep your stew and soup hot for a really long time. So even if you don't have one of those little crock pots, if you have a microwave in your hotel room, you put that in some sort of microwave safe container, heat that up, put that in your insulated thermos or clean canteen, and it's hot all day long, and you can eat that for your lunch, no problem. It's super easy. It's removing those barriers to entry to keeping yourself eating clean is so important. Finding out what you need for yourself. Personally, I will usually bring my big water bottle with me, my what's that, Nalgene, rather than my glass bottle here.
Yeah.
And with my Nalgene, I always bring my glass straw because I don't like sipping it and getting my nose wet in the big opening of the Nalgene. So I just put my little straw in there, and then I will be actually likely to drink my water.
There you go. And they do have all kinds of other tops to put on the Nalgene bottle. So if you want to get a sip top, or
that's true
they
too.
do have other ones you can put on there. But I bring my 48 ounce. I have 3 48 ounce water bottles, and I bring at least 2 of them when I go on vacation. It's just nice to have one already loaded in the fridge.
It's
and
great.
then the other one with you.
Yeah. Preparing yourself for success. It's awesome.
Did you bring your Berkey?
I did bring my Berkey. I did. I have a travel Berkey in my office for my clients, but it's a travel Berkey.
Do you want to explain what a Berkey is?
Yes. A Berkey is a water filtration system. It's designed to be used or originally I think it was designed to be used for camping. So you scoop up lake water and it just filters out everything, and it's perfectly pure, wonderful drinking water.
Yeah, when I was in Africa, that's what we used to filter all the water out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one here for our house. It's a really big one, 3.5 gallons.
So good.
It's fantastic.
Best
and
water ever.
It's such good water.
Apparently you can pour in Diet Coke and it comes out water. So
yeah, I don't know about that, but I know that you can.
you were the one that told me that.
Did I tell you that?
Yeah, it was like a demo the guy did.
No, that was a different water filtration system.
Let's say it's this one.
Okay, that's fine. I don't think it was Berkey. It was a different one. That was like the big video that was on YouTube and Facebook.
You
and
can
stuff.
pee into it. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. No, I just know it kills bacteria. It catches all this stuff, and it's very, very pure water at the other end. So anyway, we have one for home, and then I got one for my office, in my office for my clients, and I just bring that one with me when I travel, because when you have a Berkey filtration system, in order for it to stay, I don't want to say fresh, good, you have to keep it going. You have to keep water running through it.
Right, yeah.
So if it dries out, that's a problem. If you're not going to fill up your Berkey filtration system for a week, you've got to put the filters in Ziploc bags and keep it moist so it doesn't dry out too much. So anyway, I just bring mine with me. It's so easy to move. I just put it in one of my little reusable shopping bags and ready, set, go. It's awesome.
And for those that aren't going to be that intense with it, you can also buy, what I do a lot of times if I'm traveling a lot is I buy a big case of water and throw it in the back of my truck. So, which
You could do that.
which is fine unless it's going to be wicked hot, and in which case the water will get a little too hot and get all the chemicals from the plastic in the water.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the plastic. That's why I would
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that. I would just get bring my Berkey with me.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to
I'm
set
just-
up and take down.
I'm just saying a lot of the Berkeys are expensive. Not
Yeah,
everyone
that's
has
true.
one, and it can be a little bit easier to. If you, the point is you want people to be drinking lots of water.
True.
stuff,
And
so-
before, that's true. Before I had my Berkey, I would bring a jug of water. I'd get a jug of water
yeah.
and bring that with me. So we'd had some kind of filtration system. And they make filter water bottles and things. Berkey actually has a nice one it's a plastic bottle, but it has a filter unit. So you could use it for hiking and literally pick up water from the stream
Oh, that's
and then
cool.
drink it out of your water bottle. It's crazy.
Nice.
Interesting. Yeah. So water, having all of those things set up for yourself so that you don't have to fall prey to temptation. It's easy to fall prey to temptation to say, I'm going to go eat a bunch of junk, or I've been traveling, I deserve this. No, what you deserve is to nourish your body well.
Yeah, you want to make sure you're
so
feeling
that you
good.
feel good, so you can enjoy the conference you're there for, enjoy the people you're with, enjoy the time that you're having. That's one of the things that you're totally right. You said this. When you eat well, you feel better.
Right. And particularly, I think, just emphasizing again, starting it off right, like getting a good breakfast and a good lunch.
Huge difference.
And then a lot of times with these conferences and people that go for, different things they go to for business and whatever, a lot of times there's dinners that you're kind of committed to going to. And
we can talk about dinners.
and then a lot of times you're going to drink or, have a few cocktails or whatever. And I will say just something I pack for myself in the terms of like booze and what's like my new favorite as far as and what I would do if I was traveling, if I was traveling by myself or whatever and drinking alone, I would, because, you're back at the hotel, you just want to chill out. I like the caffeine-free cola Zevias.
Oh, yeah. you
Light
do
blue
like
can.
those.
And what's sweet is you can pack like a cup. They're just the size of a 12-ounce
Yeah.
soda can. So that goes in the cooler. They fit in the mini fridge really good. And then you can bring like I prefer gin is my favorite, but I'll load up a flask or just like a smaller mason jar is a good move.
Mason jars are so great for traveling.
They're awesome.
Fill them with so much stuff.
So yeah, I put like a little mason jar full of gin, and then I'll bring some limes, and I'll usually pre-cut the limes.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
that's true.
a lot of times you don't have a cutting board or a good knife in the hotel room.
Sometimes I bring a cutting board
but
and a knife.
I would imagine you would, particularly if you're staying for a longer time.
Yeah, if it's a 4 or 5 day deal, I'll
Yeah.
usually do that. But this last time I didn't bring anything like that.
So then you do that. Then the only thing you got to scrounge for when you get there is ice.
Yeah.
And my lunch bag, I usually stock with, I usually have like cocktail straws in there or
Yeah,
whatever,
that's
just
true.
in case, because I'm a little bit of a snob. So,
Yeah. You like it. You're particular. You like
but
it the way
it's,
you like it.
yeah, man, you gotta, dude, it's whatever is gonna help you feel like, you're bringing a little piece of home, a little piece of comfort, a little balance to your world when you're
That's helpful.
out in the chaos, doing what you do. So what were you going to say about dinners?
I was just going to talk a little bit about how do you make healthy choices while you're having your dinners too. Because dinners are far less predictable. As like you said, sometimes you go out for business things or whatnot. Or for me, I will go out with my other instructor team members or sometimes students, and we just kind of go wherever you go. So for me, some of the big tips that I look for is go for the less processed food, go for the less refined carbohydrate, and go for some good protein and good fat.
Could you give me an example of all of this?
Yes, I'll give you an example of all this. So a carbohydrate, so for those of you who don't remember or haven't heard from a previous episode we've done, the definitions of carbohydrate, fat, and protein. So a carbohydrate is any plant-based material, basically. Any fruit, any vegetable, any grain-based product, such as pretzels, cookies, cakes, crackers, breads, pastas, those types of things, and sweets. So any kind of sugar or sweet honey, that type of stuff is all carbohydrate. Then you have proteins, which are things like animal proteins, like meats and chicken and fish and eggs and all those things. And then you have some plant-based proteins, which are more like beans and that type of thing. And then fats are like your coconut oil, butter, avocado, olive oil, all those types of things. So when we're talking about refined carbohydrates, a refined carbohydrate would be pasta. A not refined carbohydrate would be a baked sweet potato, right?
Okay.
So if you're going out to eat, let's give a steak and potato sort of option if that's what you're into. You get a piece of meat, you get a baked potato, and then you get a side of like a salad or green beans or broccoli or something like that. That's a decent choice while you're out, as opposed to getting a cheeseburger with French fries and then a side of chocolate cake. You know what I mean?
A side of chocolate cake, yeah.
Or as your dessert or whatever. That's
right.
The first option is going to fuel you more effectively and keep you long burning for steadier burn for longer than that second option.
Gotcha.
Yeah, a lot of times when I go out, I focus on vegetarian, more sources of protein, to be totally honest, because not tofu. I don't really do any like soy-based proteins, but I'm less sure of the protein quality
Right.
out at commercially available sources. So I'll do things that are more high vegetable content and high fat and kind of leave the protein off for some of my snacks. Like if I bring my hard-boiled eggs, which I know are good quality, organic, pasture-raised, non-soy fed eggs, or my grass-fed beef bars.
Right. Yeah, because it's sometimes it's not like ethically raised and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So and sometimes too with any kind of business conference, sometimes you don't get to choose where you're going to for the restaurant because usually it's like a big group of people and you just have to go. So then you got to be kind of good on your feet with ordering something that's not going to potentially kill you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, so here's a good example of that kind of. When I was in Ohio with my sister, we all somehow I go along the flow with these things. I'm not like super persnickety. I'm not that kind of person who's like snobby. I know I sounded like that just now. Like if it's not a pasture raised organic egg, I won't eat it. It's like,
Yeah.
But if I'm bringing in, if I have a choice, if I'm going with whoever we're going, like we went and ate regular old Chinese food, dirty Chinese food, as you would say.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, what's the best choice I can make? I don't really trust a lot of the meat, so I did some spicy broccoli and white rice. Maybe not the most ideal macronutrient ratio, but I had that with a beef bar, and it was like, okay.
Yeah. Well,
Best choice of what you can
the
do.
white rice, your body can usually process pretty easily.
Not going to be too heavy. If it's fried rice, you don't really have any clue what's mixed up in all that.
Right.
Yeah. So drizzle some olive oil in the rice, give yourself some good healthy fats.
Something.
And it's like,
Something.
yeah.
And sometimes you're going to eat something that's, you have like 5 guys or whatever, and just know you're gonna, probably not feel the best afterwards, but enjoy it while you enjoy it.
Right. And that is then, if that was like when we were out, that's one meal, not all of your meals, which make you feel crummy. If you have one out of 10 meals while you're gone, that makes you not feel as optimal, that you're going to still feel way better on the return journey back to your home life.
And then once you get back to your normal groove, it's way easier to, reacclimate to, for me, back getting the smoothies and everything like that. It's really easy to kind of recalibrate versus if you just ate garbage for 4 days straight. Yeah. It's kind of like giving yourself a passing grade for the day.
Right.
Like you might, if you normally ate like an A plus or whatever, you might be getting like a B minus. That's okay. Right. Like you're still doing all right. So
right. Yeah. Then, so that's awesome.
And I think also too, if you start off well during the day, a lot of times you set yourself up to, you might even do some intermittent fasting where you don't.
Yes, that's a really good point too. I wasn't even going to bring that up, but I'll totally delve into that with you.
Well, it's just like if you have enough healthy fats and everything at the first part of your day, if you don't end up having dinner or you skip lunch or whatever it is, you're not completely screwed because you've brought in some really good, like dense, nutritionally dense sources.
Yep.
And then,
that's a great point.
You can. Because a lot of times too, when we travel, I mean, when I do like long road trips, you and me a lot of times don't stop for lunch. We just keep cruising. Yeah. So, which is like your body's fine. You got plenty of fat on you to, not you particularly, but like, in general, people.
Yeah. Anybody should have enough fat reserves in their body to go for an 8-hour drive and not need to eat. Right. But I will say that takes time to retrain your metabolism and retrain your system. A lot of people who are just getting started in the world of health and, recovery from metabolic disaster of low fat diet or heavy restrictions or whatever, yo-yo dieting, can't handle that. Their bodies cannot do that. That's where you get the hangry, you get shaky, you get like dizzy when you miss a meal.
I need to stop.
Yeah, because the body is not understanding how to convert fats into fuel. It says, give me glucose, give me sugar. That's all I know how to do.
Yeah.
So you and I have well-adapted metabolisms where we could easily do that. If I'm driving for 8 hours, I very rarely will eat anything. I'll drink, I'll stay hydrated for sure, but I don't want to take the time to stop and eat, because the other factor here is when you're busy like that, you're not in rest mode, and you only digest food well in rest mode.
Right.
If you're driving and you're active, and you are active when you're driving, you're in go mode for sure. You're not digesting that food well in the first place. So, or have a little snack, have a meat bar, you know what I mean? Something that's going to give you a little bit of fat protein that your body can say, okay, I'll keep this fire going, this metabolic fire burning, rather than crashing out completely.
Yeah, and I've even found that having staples in your travel diet that are normal staples in your regular diet, for me, that seems to work better because I'm already used to digesting those things. So then
That's a great point.
When I go on the road, I know, I'm having my heavy cream, I'm bringing my coffee, I'm having my normal meat bars, I'm having, the chia seed pudding, which I've had a bunch of times. Yep. So like at least a portion of the diet that I'm eating when I'm traveling is the same as when I was home. So then my body knows at least what to do with that. And if I go out for some dinner at a restaurant that's maybe less than ideal, at least it's like I've got a good base for the day.
Yeah.
So I think
that's true too. So another one to help with the you said intermittent fasting. It's not quite intermittent fasting. It's kind of more like fat fasting. I've done that a bunch of times. Yeah. Where you'll have heavy cream or one of my rocket fuel lattes, that's not my made up thing, by the way. That's from Health Field Pursuit.
Yeah.
So
giving everyone the attributions
they deserve. So
I'll
link that. Don't worry about it. What I'm drinking right now is hot water that I steeped fresh ginger root, a little squeeze of lemon, and a little spoonful of coconut oil mixed in top. So that's a really, really great way. Your medium chain fatty acids, MCTs.
Sounds gross, but right.
It's not gross. You can taste it. It's delicious. Here, you want to taste it? Taste it right now live.
I'll taste it.
Aha, live on recording.
It's where I can see the fat floating around.
I know. It's delicious though. It's great. And it's awesome because they are super easy to absorb and digest fats, and it just fuels you right through. Helps with digestion, all kinds of good things. What do you think, honey?
It's interesting.
It's interesting. It's coldish now, so it's definitely better when it's hot.
Yeah. It does have that, which I've noticed with the rocket fuel lattes and stuff, that fatty feel on your lips.
Oh, yeah. It's not as emulsified as something like your heavy cream.
It's true. So I think we did pretty good on the diet situation.
Yeah, I think those are some big tips. To summarize for everybody, meal prep, meal prep, meal prep. Give yourself a plan.
Think about it.
Think about it. Even if you spend 5 minutes, think about it. Write down a plan. I wrote down a plan for myself, and then I was going into the whole, I get a little bit nutty on the data side of things, and I'm like making sure I've got enough calories and enough ratios and all, planning it out for myself. Giving yourself some really good shelf-stable snacks. Those meat bars, any of those really nutrient-dense bars.
Clutch.
Olives, people are hit or miss with olives, but I love olives. Get a jar of olives. They're great to leave. You can leave them out even for, a day on your counter if you're traveling, or put it in your little refrigerator. Tomatoes, little cherry tomatoes are a great snack because they don't have to be refrigerated. Fruit like apples and bananas and stuff.
Yeah.
Nut butter.
Yeah, I would do I was thinking about that. Another one I've done is sliced up a bunch of apples and then thrown in a big ass jar of peanut butter. Mm-hmm. And that's just calories.
And delicious
Awesomeness,
and super good to stabilize your metabolism, all that stuff.
You don't feel like you're roughing it.
Yeah.
So, if you have a little more space, you can do Jeremy's ice cream, which is, Serena thinks it's disgusting.
I think it's gross.
But it's cinnamon applesauce mixed with peanut butter, and I think it's delicious.
Good. I'm glad you enjoy it. That's awesome.
It's like apples and peanut butter.
Yeah, that is true. It is like apples and peanut butter.
But in a bowl form.
Like a baby food form.
It is. It does look like baby food because I mix it up.
Yeah.
So that's what I used to do when I was a little chubby kid. I always like to have I'd get ice cream.
Oh.
But Turkey Hill or whatever.
Okay.
But then you
stir it around until it becomes soupy.
Until it gets almost like a milkshake.
Yeah.
And then it was smooth, and I always liked that.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, so do the same thing with the ice cream.
Cool.
Or with the applesauce
Jeremy's
peanut
ice
butter.
cream.
Yeah, because then the peanut butter gets dispersed evenly throughout.
It's true. It's
very creamy,
nice, I'm sure.
consistent. Yeah, it is. It's good.
Yeah. So prepping your meals, planning ahead of time, bringing all of the tools that you'll need to help you be successful. So whether that means bringing your little utensil kit or your clean canteen / thermos, your water bottle, all that stuff to help you feel successful. You can do all of that without taking up a huge amount of space. I know it sounds like a lot of items, but if you have one bag that you use, that's all of your meal prep stuff. That's what I have, and it fits great.
Yeah.
It's super. Once you get used to it, you have a plan of action, and you have a couple of repetitions under your belt. It is easy peasy.
Yeah, and I'd say too, I pack my lunch every day for work for contracting, and so when I travel, I bring my lunchbox with me. It usually has some elements of my food that I'm bringing with me, but that bag has all the extra stuff in it, straws and utensils and little things in there that I would use for other meals, which is, if you have a designated kind of travel bag, like you were saying, for your food prep, you kind of load it up once and just make sure it's stocked up with the things you need.
Oh, that's true.
And then all I'm loading into it, all I load into my lunch bag every day is just the food stuff.
The actual food stuff itself. Yep.
Yeah. And then all the ancillary things are already taken care of. So.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of practice there too. I think that's a great tip. Give yourself, prep it out ahead of time. That's really what it comes down to. The really big factor is just think about it ahead of time. Give yourself some items that you can choose from. You use this phrase a lot. Have a target-rich environment. Make sure you've got enough items to choose from that will sound appealing to you when you're tired, when you're not feeling good, when it's been a long day, when you don't even have to think about food at all. When going down and calling room service for that chocolate cake sounds like so much easier than actually figuring out a healthy meal.
Yeah.
It's a good option.
Well, I liked what you said too about packing yourself a little treat.
Yes, pack yourself a little treat.
A little treat.
I love traveling, but I also don't love traveling.
Yeah.
A little treat, something to just this is nice. I enjoy this.
Yeah, something you can look forward to that's not something you were going to regret later. Now, feel free to indulge and do whatever you want to do, but if you're trying to, particularly if you have some goals in mind that are fitness or dietarily oriented and you want to kind of keep things going, giving yourself a nice little chocolate bar or whatever
or bring your Zevia.
Whatever your jam is, if it's gin and Zevia or whatever, that's more where I would spend my calories. Yes. It makes everything easier, and you want to make it fun.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll get myself a new audiobook if I'm traveling or whatever it is, and you bring your laptop, so I'm sure you're watching Netflix and whatever. So, but I was kind of thinking through those things where you're doing yourself a solid when you travel, if you kind of can do that.
Yeah.
And then do you want to talk about mobility for travel?
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So those were this was a great little conversation about food-based travel tips, which are awesome. You really, it makes a big difference when you fuel your body effectively while you're gone and then coming back. And I have not done this kind of a trip like I just did. 4 days gone, 3 days home, 4 days gone. I don't know if ever I've done a quick turnaround like that with such a long drive in between, because I was 6 hours, a little plus to Ohio, 8 hours back, and then 5 hours down to Herndon, DC area, and then 6 hours back. That's a huge amount of car time. And I did not, in between in the 3 days, I was completely busy with tons of clients and doing paperwork and getting my meals prepped and ready to go. I didn't go to yoga. I did not do any of my normal physical body help things other than, showering and Epsom salt bath. Maybe I did one. I can't remember.
Yeah.
So a lot of things get tight. You need to physically take care of your body too. Jeremy helped me a lot. So we're recording our show right now a little bit later than we would have this morning because I was laying on the floor having back spasms.
Yep.
It's like, Jeremy, I can't stand up. And everything was just clenching on my right side all the way up because, as it turns out, when you're driving for that many hours and then sitting in conference and then working in your office for, my 3 days back, I had very long days, 12-hour days, right? Evidently, that takes a toll on your body. And I was sitting down, getting ready, writing my notes up for our show, and then turned my head, and all of a sudden, spasm all down my back.
So I've had a fair amount of experience with traveling, particularly driving long distances in cars, through family vacations and some business stuff and whatever, where now this was many years ago, I jacked up my back and had a nerve impingement that would fire all the muscles down my right leg. Yeah. It made driving atrocious. So, and then when I post-surgery, my hip and my glutes and my whole right side was still, there was a lot of scar tissue there, and there was also a lot of muscle memory of things clenching really tight. Yeah. And then I would have it where everything would clench on that side, and then a muscle rope would go up my back and clench all the way up to my shoulder, which was less than pleasant.
Not fun.
So because of all my injuries, I've gotten super good at mobility work, and then how I've framed travel in my mind. Like, one of the things that I don't think people might consider is that I won't get into airplane travel. That's a whole other deal. But if you think about just driving somewhere for a long time, you're seated in a car, whether it's a truck or a car, and your right foot, unless you're driving stick, but most people driving automatic, that's the one that's articulating and doing all the movement, and constantly has tension at the very end of the range of your foot. So you're keeping tension in your leg and in that, particularly the right side. And then a lot of times you end up kind of slouching over. So then I was telling you, your psoas is going to clamp, your glute's going to clamp up, and then you're just seated in this crappy posture for a really long time, and hours. And then again, you're articulating that foot at the end of the range, where one of the things that Kelly Starrett says in Ready to Run is you want to have your feet parallel as much as you can. So even when if you can consciously think about it, when you're driving your car, you want to make sure you don't have that hip turned out. You want it kind of up and down. But one of the things I found super helpful, because a lot of times you travel, you're not doing your yoga and your exercise and everything you normally would be.
Yeah, I did a little bit of my normal stretching, but nothing like my normal stretching routine. No Bikram. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So I always bring my foam roller with me, and I bring, if you don't have space for that, I bring my Supernova, which is like a ball version of a nasty foam roller that's more targeted. And then I also bring my bands, which are like the big they're like giant rubber bands. So then what I had you do is look, everything's just clamped down on that side, so you need to get some space.
Oh my gosh, I know.
We had you work out your psoas
Yeah, that made a huge difference.
with a mobility ball and a rumble roller.
Yeah, dude, I really thought I had a twinge in my back yesterday, and I thought, man, have I been dehydrated? Have I not? I thought I've been pretty good on my water. Have I been like, I know while I was away driving and traveling, I drank more coffee, and I was like, I felt a little twinge. I'm like, is that my kidney? Am I dehydrated? Is something wrong? And then no, today when this happened, it was right from that kidney area wrapped all the way around and back up to my shoulder blade, and it just was spasming. And I'm like, oh, not my kidney, my back, just from driving. And I have not stretched it out well enough. I have not done. And then I rolled on that thing on my psoas. Oh my goodness, that was fun.
It does not feel good.
No, it was really, really tender. That was definitely. But then it released. I felt it release, and it was like so much tension.
So for those,
All right.
a lot of people have really tight psoas, and they might not know they have tight psoas, particularly if you run a lot. If you ever see someone, or if you have done this yourself, get out of your car and then it takes you a minute to like stand up straight. It's usually the psoas that's gripping on the front, so you feel like a little hunched over.
Yeah.
And then you're like, come on. And then
I had that.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
So, and then that's what if I'm traveling and I know I'm driving a lot, every night I will foam roll my glute, the interior crease of my hip, and then I'll do the psoas. There's a really good little tool. It's called a Coregeous ball that is inflatable. So they give you like a little straw you can inflate it with. And you wouldn't think so, but you can get it right in your psoas and really drop all your weight onto it and let it release. It's super good. So my brother actually has it right now because his psoas is jacked.
Oh, this is psoas. Jeez.
Yeah.
Muscles of ours.
It's one you in like mine's so tight. Most of the time I use a kettlebell horn. So like the top of a kettlebell, I'll smash that into my and just for people who don't know, your psoas is kind of like your lower abs. It's like underneath your lower abs. I'm not describing it well.
Above your hip bone.
Above your hip bone.
Above the ASIS, the hip bone that protrudes.
Kind of like below your belly button.
Yeah.
So you'll find it. Yeah,
if on your right side, it's like for those NTPs who are listening, it's right above your ileocecal valve.
Yes, what Serina said. So yeah, just you want to make sure, because you want to, particularly as we get older, you want to treat travel and things like that as almost athletic endeavors.
Yeah, you said that to me. I was like, brilliant. That's
well, you're asking a lot of your body because you're putting it in a horribly shitty posture for a long time.
Yeah, you don't think that you're asking a lot of your body to sit still, but you totally are. That's what I realized. I like I said, I haven't done this travel like this. You said that to me today when I was spasming on the floor. I was like, dude, you're so right. This is a really intense amount of non-activity that you're asking your body to do to maintain that posture for so long and to maintain focus. So it makes a lot of sense. You've got to do some recovery from that.
Yeah. And then I would recommend kind of I've been working on, if you're engaging in athletics and kind of know your body a little bit, you know probably where your tight spots are and what you need to work on. So those are the things that I make sure to address when I'm traveling, and you don't want to spend your whole time doing mobility work, but it can be like 10-15 minutes in a hotel room. Yeah. And you're good to go, and even like sitting through those conferences will be way easier because your glutes are loose and everything's good. And I like doing a lot of they call it like smashing with the I call it seek and destroy, because I look for knots in my body and then I keep smashing them with the foam roller until they release.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I like to. But then for you, if you're spasming, that's not the time to foam roll. You got to get things to chill out a little bit. That's why I kind of like massage your back with CBD oil, helpful. Let things chill out a little bit. And then when you felt a little bit better, you were able to foam roll and loosen things up later. You're going to take an Epsom salt soak in the bath.
Yeah.
And that'll be another kind of like chill things out.
Yeah, and I was surprised how little time it actually took to get things to calm down pretty well. I mean, you massaged me because it was actually spasming, and you're like feeling this happening.
Well, and when I say massage, it's not a deep tissue. You can't
just try to calm the muscles down.
I am not a masseuse nor a scientist or a doctor, but like I do know that it's not very fun to have a spasming muscle massaged unless you got somebody that really knows what they're doing, and I do not. I'm like an amateur.
Yeah. So, but you calmed it down a little bit for me and then showed me how to attack my psoas. And it was like 3 minutes. not long. And it just started releasing. And I was like, okay, I think we'll be all right. And if I had known, now I know, this is a great tool to put in the repertoire of like prep yourself for travel, keep yourself healthy food wise. Also, here's the physical component of not even physical like exercising, because I actually did quite a bit of exercising while I was away, but it wasn't the same type of exercise I do at home. It wasn't yoga.
Right.
It was a lot of lifting and moving and up and down a lot of stairs. So like a lot of physical activity, but not a lot of focused repair work, like your mobility stuff you're talking about. Dude, if I brought that ball with me, I could have done that for 3 minutes, each night, and probably not had this back spasm today.
Yep. And then that's when I've had really long trips, when I've been jacked up, I will make sure I do, because you've got a long trip on the front end and then a long trip on the back end. So I made sure that in between I was prepping, recovering from the long trip on the front end, getting my legs loosened up and everything, and then doing enough mobility work during the week that I was ready for the trip home, which sounds silly, but I was coming off some injuries. So it was just
it's great.
You
Makes
gotta,
sense.
you gotta like, help yourself out.
Yeah.
So.
I'm super happy I don't have to drive anywhere this weekend. That would have been a pain. That would have been very difficult.
Been in rough shape, but
yeah.
So anyway, I think we got a good smattering.
Yeah,
there.
I think this is great. Thanks for
solid.
talking with me, Jeremy. This is super fun.
Well, sometimes I know things.
Yeah, me too. Hey, we make a good team.
Yeah, right? Well, I'm very happy to have you back.
Me too. I've missed our show.
I know, right? So, all right, guys, we'll be chatting with you shortly in the outro.
And that's it for us, everybody. Thanks for listening today. The end of episode 15 for The Painter and the Pixie.
Amen.
Very happy to be back with y'all and enjoyed sharing some of those tips with you. If you found this show helpful, if you thought it was useful for your travel endeavors, things that you're doing here, pass it along to your friends. Send it around. Send us your favorite tips too for travel if you want. We'd love to hear about that.
Yeah. So we appreciate you guys listening. We have some fun stuff coming up. In the near future, we're going to start having some guests on. I know I had my brother on the last 2 shows. He was more of like a fill-in co-host.
Still a guest.
Yeah, still a guest. But next week, we're going to have some very special guests. Actually, 2 guests at once. And we're going to be our first 2-camera show. So we'll see how that goes. But that'll be fun. And I think we're probably going to end up having I actually didn't tell you, but I have another guest lined up for May.
Cool,
so
awesome.
We're looking like we're doing about 1 guest a month, something like that.
Fun.
So that'll be very fun. And again, I just want to say thank you very much for listening. As Serina said earlier, if you enjoy the show, pass around to your friends, and we would appreciate that. And yeah, lots of stuff coming. We're working on some stuff. So I don't want to prematurely announce anything.
Right, no, just stay tuned.
Yeah, we got some stuff coming down. It'll be good. You can follow us on the Instagram. That's the best spot currently at the Painter and the Pixie. So yeah, I think we nailed it. It was a good show. Super pumped to have you back, sweetie.
I'm glad, thanks.
So, and y'all have a very good week. Stay out of trouble, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Good day.
Amazing.